Hello everyone and welcome back to the BUSR F1 series. We are here this evening to kick off the season, the winter series, and we are at the same race that the real F1 circuit is right now in real life. SQ3 is on right now. There will be no spoilers in this stream. But this evening we will kick off the season at the Circuit of Americas in Austin, Texas. Great track to get us underway. My name is Tom and I'll be guiding you through this evening's actions. Not alone, of course. Alongside me in the virtual commentary box this evening is Alex or Glinty. How are you, my friend?
I'm not bad. Yourself?
I'm very good. I'm enjoying some real life action, and we'll be swapping over to the virtual scene shortly. When we get underway. What are your thoughts on the track, though? It's a bit of a divisive circuit, the Circuit of the Americas. It's had its critics in the past, but it is a driver's track.
Well, I mean, my experience of it isn't necessarily through F1. I know some of it is from mostly from Forza Motorsport, and some of it is from Assetto Corsa Competizione. It's a big stickler for picking up time penalties. You know, just like the little ones where you go off track and then you get 1.5 a second and a half or something just for straying over. It's a pain, but it does make for some very interesting racing.
Yeah, I think the long straights uphill into turn 1 and then down into turn 12, I believe it is. We should see the most of the action. Qualifying is going to be very interesting, of course, though. Like you said, track limit penalties are going to be critical. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of invalidated lap times throughout the 18-minute session before we get ready for our 26-lap race, I believe it is. Or, no, 28-lap race around the Circuit of the Americas. Would you have any fun facts while we can fill the time before we get going about this track?
Do I have some fun facts?
Swig in there.
Just a little bit. Just have a look at the thing. Here we are.
Hello. Hello, everyone. We're here. We've been talking for the last, I don't know how many long, 3 minutes with no audio. But to try and sum up what we were talking about pretty quickly. Oh, we heard the intro. Okay, we're good. Driver lineup. You can see it on screen. I'm going to cut short because we've lost a little bit of time. Some familiar faces. Geek, Matimumu, Joe. Usually reside in the top 3. Tom Hug, BUSR. Alpha, Cam, we've seen them before, Jareki as well. A couple of new faces in there that I don't necessarily recognise, but with, how many is that? 13 people in the lobby? Should be an exciting one as we get ready to go into our 18-minute qualifying session. 17 minutes and 45 as we join the action for qualifying. I like to do this normally. What's your predictions for the session? I know you haven't been on the F1 scene too much, but if you were to take a stab in the dark, who would you go for?
Probably go for one of the top 3. I know Geek quite well. I know he's quite quick at this sort of stuff. So I think from a limited knowledge, probably go for it. But we never know. We've got new people in. It could be a matter of a bit of a shake-up, you know, as with any competition, you have new people coming.
It could be. It very well could be. And also a new game. Some of the guys didn't take part in the series we did in the summer, so it'll be interesting to see if we've got a few hidden gems in there. Maybe some people that have been holding back their pace. We'll have to wait and see. First car out on track there is Assassin in the Aston Martin, joined by the Alfa Romeo behind, and that is a name that I have not seen before. 3AD 17. Adius, I'm being told in my ear. We have seen it before. It is a different gamer tag, though. A lot of cars coming out on track, though, and I think that's going to be because they want to get that banker lap in early.
Mm-hmm. I finally got some of the fun facts coming through.
Excellent.
It's believed that COTA, the reason why it is called so, is the geographical positioning of the track is in a part of Texas, which means that it's sort of almost central, so you can sort of go east, west, north, and south. It's a bit of a hard one to explain, but I believe it's somewhere in sort of just outside of Austin, Texas, which is northern. So it's surrounded by land, essentially.
That is an interesting fact. I like that. I haven't heard that one before. Obviously, it was introduced way back in 2012, which feels like a long time ago. That's 11 years. Oh, no. That's crazy. We had that battle between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton for the win. Back in the glory days of Red Bull versus McLaren versus Ferrari. What a time that was. We're getting ready to go with assassin, though, for the first flying lap of the session. Would you like to take us through this first lap of the new season?
Well, I can do. I mean, when it comes to obviously coming up towards the top of the hill, you know, the elevation change going straight up and then straight down. I believe I can't remember the exact amount of G it comes under, but it's near. I believe it's not obviously up towards fighter pilots, but that is probably some of the most that you can experience in the F1 calendar at this point in time.
Absolutely, it is a mighty climb up towards Tower, and it's a magnet for incidents as well. Going through lap one. If we can get the sector times in the top right, that would be ideal, just so we can see the deltas and try and compare between our drivers. But it's been a pretty tidy lap so far.
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, we've not had any runs off just yet. I find that this corner going into, I believe it's turn 11. I don't have my corner numbers up on the screen at the moment. No, turn 12. That one, it is quite hard to get your braking points, especially if you're a bit new like I did when I was first on it. But that one I find is probably, out of the entire track, is probably one of the harder corners to get through, just on the braking point and turning.
Absolutely. The third sector, obviously turn 12 is part of the middle sector as well. The third sector is surprisingly the trickiest, which you wouldn't expect considering what sector 1 offers, that incredible weaving Silverstone-like through turns 3, 4, 5 and up to 6. But we do have our first time on the board. It's a 33.5. Jarek is straight into the 32s though, and I'm expecting to see, well, probably a low 32, maybe a high 31.
Oh, we've got a new one. Williams
Joe,
are back at top.
Talking about glory days earlier, Williams haven't won a race since 2012, coincidentally, but Joe with a 32.6. I'd expect that to be beaten. There it is. His Williams teammate goes 0.4 of a second quicker.
Oh, blimey, this one's going to be a close one. No, actually, going back to what we're talking about the track with, going into, was it Sector 3 we were on about? The very sort of windy part. When it comes down to it, COTA actually has got several different elements that have been sculpted to replicate parts of European tracks. So as you're saying, Silverstone's, Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel sequence are all in there. Hockenheim's arena bends. There's a replica of Istanbul's turn 8. Some Senna S's from Interlagos. Turn 4 from the Buddha International Circuit. And turns 9 and 10 from Bahrain is what it's telling me are also on here. So it's almost like an amalgamation of some of the best corners that you could find in the world. Yeah,
and I think most famously will be that triple right-hander, turns 16, 17 and 18, replicating what was first introduced at Turkey, and Hermann Tilke has run into the ground because every new track he designs, he decides that he has to put that corner in it. We saw it with Russia, it was a left-hander. That was a horrendous track, but thankfully we don't go there anymore. First runs have been completed. We're just waiting for a Mercedes as the final driver to put in a representative time, but it is 0.4 at the top between the two Williams. Jareki in at third with a 32.9. RWB fourth as well with a 32.9. Geek off the pace, 1.1 seconds back on a 33.3. I'd expect him to shave at least a second off that time in the remaining 11 minutes.
Is it RWB or is it Raul Weltbegriff? I assume it's to mimic the company.
Potentially, but RWB is a lot easier to pronounce.
True. Which,
being British, is we like easy pronunciation. We like to get short and sweet to the meat of the word. But going down through the rest of the top 10, we've got Tom Hug and Bazza, the two Ferraris, on row 4 at the moment. Assassin was the first time we saw in 9th, and then Alpha, the second McLaren, in 10th. Didn't actually mention Cameron Searle up in P5, so I'll give him a shout out as well. There is the first runs. The Mercedes of Dazen has actually stayed in the pits, so opting, as I hit my mic accidentally there, opting to potentially save a set of soft tyres, because tyre wear, especially in the first sector, because you've got all of those flicks left and right through the Silverstone, Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel section, put a lot of load through your front tyres.
Yeah, lateral, I believe it's lateral
yes.
grip and lateral G-force. It's a lot to comprehend in there. Obviously, our drivers don't, where it's a simulation, unfortunately, don't have the same effects as in the real life, but doesn't mean that the car isn't virtually simulating what's going on, what would happen in real life.
And we can't, to be fair, we can't put it past some of the drivers to have a fully fledged proper real life simulator. Would probably be out of the budget for most university students, I would imagine. But never put it past them. People can be committed to their gaming, as we see people coming out for their second runs of the session, with the exception of Dazen in the Mercedes. And this will be the first flying lap that they set in the qualifying session. Under 10 minutes to go, and it's the two Williams that lead the way at the moment.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one to see if it was in real life. Unfortunately, always got a bit of a soft spot for Williams, but
I think everyone does. I feel like the three historic teams, you've got Ferrari, McLaren, and Williams. All Ferrari and McLaren a little bit less so now, but all have had their down periods in recent years. I mean, Ferrari and McLaren haven't won a championship since 2008. Williams goes back to 97. So I think everyone has that little bit of nostalgia for those historical names, and they're names that we hope we see on the F1 grid for the foreseeable future. We're off board at the moment with Cameron Searle starting his second flying lap. I'm not sure if he came into the pits or not, so this might be another run. You can see the ERS light flashing as he gets very out of shape going through turn 1.
A little bit of a wiggle.
Bit of a wiggle, bit of a rallycross drift through the first corner.
I mean, when it comes to a dip like that, when you're going over and with such stiff suspension on those F1 cars, it's going to get a little bit leery, because the chassis itself will have to flex if the suspension isn't it isn't soft enough for it to get the rebound on it. So that's why it kicks out. It loses its lateral grip because it can't get that contact patch through.
Yeah, putting all of that power, all the 1,000 horsepower through a 700, nearly 800 kilo rear-wheel drive car can end in disaster more often than not. But we're on board with Joe. He has invalidated, I believe, though, because you can see the track map is bright red, and his second attempt has been ruined by that misdemeanor in the first sector.
Again, we were talking about this in the intro. It only takes couple of microns from being a very, very, very off thing cut to being something that completely invalidates your lap.
It's my slight bugbear with track limits in real life, to be honest, because you can lose time and still have a lap time invalidated. I feel like, and it gets ridiculous. I think I can't remember what race, it might have been Austria, where we had the first major discussion about it in real life. I think someone had spun in qualifying and obviously gone off the track and then had that lap time deleted. It's like, well, they've just set a lap time of 2 minutes 10 seconds because they were facing backwards going through turn 3. I don't think you need to invalidate the lap and give them a potential. If it was in the race, I think for people spinning and going off the track, they get a warning for it. So I find that a little bit stupid, personally.
I guess it gets to a point where obviously they've gone off track, but also that's such a slow time, they probably just got rid of it because it was meaningless almost. But I guess it depends on what the officiating people would like. I mean, as long as it's better than the current Premier League VAR systems, it'll be fine.
That is a whole other topic for a whole different stream.
We're a sim racing lot. We're not football, so we'll leave that to the NSC's FIFA branch.
While we have been discussing real life affairs, though, we have seen some improvements. Obviously, Joe invalidated, so didn't get that second run in. it's seen Dazen in the Mercedes and RWB in the Aston Martin jump in between the two Williams. And we saw BUSR in the Ferrari pick up a few places as well, jumping into the high 32s. On board with Tom Hug at the moment. Can't see what the sector time is, but it has looked pretty clean, getting very close to invalidating over the curve at turn, I believe that's turn 9, coming up into turn 11 now. Can he get on the brakes nicely? He does. Gets the car rotated pretty well and gets it in a straight line as quick as possible to blast it down towards turn 12 and into the final sector.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously coming out of that final corner where you're saying about blasting, obviously. Do you reckon he'd be using an air and center technique, or sort of going slightly on the throttle and increasing pressure over time?
I would be surprised if a lot of them don't use that modulation, I think is probably the right word.
Yeah.
It is very slippery, this game. Not as slippery as F1 22, that was a nightmare, and I think everyone who didn't run traction control, and probably people that did run traction control, found that quite painful. Matti Mumu has raised the bar, or lowered the bar I should say, because he's gone quicker. 31.9, first person into the 31s. Half a second clear. Our reigning champions looking pretty tasty at the top. This has been a nice lap from Tom Hug. Where's it put him just behind his teammate, just over a tenth of a second. 33.0. The Ferrari's residing in 6th and 7th at the moment. And here is the provisional pole sitter. It's got quite a gap, exactly half a second back to the Mercedes in 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting one to see that. I mean, you'll probably see in the next however long, or 5 minutes, probably 1 or 2 more runs. We may have somebody just quickly jump in and into the top 3 spot from maybe the mid-table, just from making up a little bit of time in whichever section they might be dropping a little bit of time in.
Geek is the one that's out of place here, down in 9th place, 1.4 seconds off Matti Mumu. He's only done 1 run, and his first banker lap was a little bit rubbish, it has to be said, for someone of Geek's stature in this series. You'd expect him to be at least in the 32s, close to where Joe is. But yeah, we've got a couple of new names upsetting the apple cart at the top. Dazen in the Mercedes on the front row at the moment, and RWB getting in between the Williams cars as well. Joe, I would expect Joe to get pretty close to that time of Matti Mumu. I'm not sure he's going to beat it. It's a very good time from Matti Mumu. I think he's only 9/10 of a second off F1 esports pace, which is extremely impressive.
Well, I mean, we are an esports server.
True. Jana Opmil, watch out. Here comes Matti Mumu.
Yeah. Well, obviously we were talking about some of the people lower down. What we do have to remember is it is the start of the season. Some people may not have the same level of confidence, may not have the same, being sort of in with the grips of the game, maybe still adjusting to the new physics of this new one. So we could see over the course of the season, some people jumping up the table, some people dropping down. We don't know. It's all really to play for it.
Absolutely. It's an excellent point, actually, because from my experience of playing this game, it is very much a confidence thing. It's very easy to start sliding a little bit more, because obviously the braking's a lot different as well. We spoke about it in the summer. You can now lock the rears, which you couldn't do previously. So those guys that have ABS off are going to find it more difficult, but obviously there is time to be gained by turning the assists off, and it enhances the experience as well. It's a tricky game to master. Obviously it's not quite to the realism levels of something like ACCRI racing. It sits very much in that gap between arcade and sim, and I think the balance is pretty good, but obviously there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, and I mean with Simcade, it's a balance at the end of the day. There's going to be parts where it's going to be, it could be fiercely realistic, but then the casual gamer will probably be like, yeah, not quite my cup of tea. And then the other way around, could be something like Mario Kart, and then there's no point in doing it sim racing, is there?
Well, since it's now an EA Sports title, which has created enough controversy in itself, I think it will probably appeal more towards the casual players, which is something we've seen with FIFA and now EA FC. We are getting ready to go, though, for our final flying laps. You can see RWB, 3rd place, trying to get some heat into his tyres very late on, and we're going to see if he can make a challenge for pole position. He's got a lot of work to do, but never say never, because that Aston Martin at times in real life has been outstanding. Less so in recent weeks, of course, and hopefully he can carry the Saudi Arabia Aston Martin form rather than the Qatar Aston Martin form. As he flicks it through turns 3, 4, 5 and 6. Brilliant section. I know we've said it before. So good to drive, especially if you're on a wheel. And it probably feels pretty good on a controller as well. He matches his first sector. It's a 25-1. He's about half a tenth down. That can be made up. We've got yellow flags in the final sector. That is for people backing off, trying to find a little bit of track space. I worry that the Aston Martin may come up to the back of these lapped car, all these cars on an outlap, sorry. You can see the 2 Ferraris, there's a McLaren and the Mercedes down there as well. He's got to be careful. They've got to be careful as well. But so far, it's been pretty tidy, but he's maybe not made the gains he would have liked in the first sector. So we see the split. He has found a lot of time, though. In the middle sector, 0.3 of a second, nearly a third of a second. It's going to put him in the ballpark of a low 32 if he can continue to find time in the final sector. This will be the first driver over the liner. Got a yellow flag in the first sector. I think one of the McLarens has bailed out very early. That's going to be the end of their qualifying. It must be Alpha because Cameron is still on a outlap as he crosses the line now.
Oh, let's see if RWB can just clinch this. I reckon he might. Oh, yeah, it's gone to. He's on pole now.
Well, he's gone to second. He did lose about a tenth and a half in the final sector, which means it's only a 32.3, but he is provisionally on the front row. We're going to wait for the cars that are coming next. It's going to be Aria in the AlphaTauri, half a second up, but that's only going to be good enough to move off the back row of the grid out of last place. Unfortunately, the Alfa Romeo is in the pits. They are finished. Aria up to the line. What will it be? It's a 34-1, moves off the bottom of the pile, but we do have our 2 wooden spoon contenders. Joe isn't improving. You can see the delta. He does find time in the final sector to jump up onto the front row, but he won't be happy to be 4/10 off the back of Matti Mumu. Assassin finds 4/10 of a second as well. 33.0, only 8th at best. Geek is the one who's really out of position, and it's only P5. Be disappointed with that. Found 7/10, but it's only P5. Would have been looking to challenge the 2 Williams. Matimu is invalidated. He will be on pole unless there is an outrageous time from someone further back. Alpha looked like he backed out of it, and you can see, 1 minute 43. He is going to be done. BUSR in the Ferrari will be next to try and challenge the top 5, probably. 32.9 is what he's got currently. Little bit messy, too much curve on the inside. Look through the final corner, finds a 10th, finds a couple of places as well. Dazen goes into second for Mercedes, but in the class of his own out in front, it is Matti Mumu with nearly 4/10 over the rest of the field.
That is quite impressive. I mean, obviously with people from last year, it's going to be same sort of stuff. However, with the newcomers that have come in and they just sort of come up, I can't remember exactly who within the top 5 is brand new, but that has to be an impressive feat just to come straight in, drop into a brand new series, brand new Discord, and go straight in is pretty impressive, I have to admit.
Yeah, it was. Matamu, the reigning champion, getting off to the perfect start. His typical contenders had a bit of a messy session. Joe and Geek didn't quite get the session they were after. But in this small interlude we've got between qualifying and the race, we are going to talk about Special Effects, who we are very proud to be partnered with. And we're going to show you what they do to help the gaming community.
Nobody likes being left out. That's why Special Effect are helping people with physical disabilities to play video games. But this isn't just about having fun. The gaming setups we create are personalised, so people can play to the very best of their abilities. And that opens the door to inclusion and independence, confidence and creativity. Help us level the playing field and create more magical gaming moments. Because it's everyone's turn to play.
A fantastic organisation. I think you can agree. I'm very proud to be partnered with and supporting Special Effect. Back to the racing action, though. We saw Matty Mumu in the Williams, not the McLaren, which we saw last season, blitzing qualifying, and I think he's looking fairly good for a race win because his rivals have dropped the ball a little bit.
Yeah, it looks fairly comfortable as well with, was it 0.4 of a second up? Or...
Nearly 0.4, yeah. He was the only person that got anywhere near the 31, so obviously he was a 31.9. I think the next was 32.3, yeah, 0.3 was the margin. He's looking comfortable.
100. Yeah, I mean, obviously as well with some of the people that may have fallen off again. Just to reiterate, obviously it is the first first race of the season. There are a couple of people that may not have the same experience with 23 as they did with 22. And again, we could see maybe a slightly harder push or a slightly playback race within this one.
Oh my God, we've got underway. I thought we had a formation lap. Matty Mumu has jumped the start and he's got a drive-through penalty. Not the start he would have been wanting. He's got a massive advantage over everybody else, but he's going to have to come back into the pits within 3 laps to serve that penalty. We were caught out a little bit by the start there. Joe getting up into second place though, after starting 4th. Geek making a solid start as well. I think Tom Hug has lost places in the second Ferrari. But yeah, Matty Mumu, he's got an advantage, but he's jumped the start. Criminal stuff to start his season.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it only takes a little bit of like the ball to slip, like take your eye off the ball, let it slip, whatever, and that could be his race. He could not even make pole on this if he's not careful.
Contact further back, the 2 McLarens getting stuck in with Assassin, all 3 of them going off the track. Tom Hug and the Alfa Romeo of Zadie trying to get past Assassin. Will he move over to the left-hand side to defend? Ooh. Yes, he does. Tom Hug trying to hold on the right. We could have 3 wide down into turn 12. No, the Alfa Romeo thinks better of it. Will he try and commit down the inside of the Ferrari? No. Assassin gets that place back from the Ferrari, holds on to 8th for the time being, but it's Matty Mumu 3.5 seconds out in front. But with that drive-through penalty, Joe suddenly looking very pretty. More racing. Assassin and Tom Hug can't get enough of each other. They stay as they were. They're in 8th and 9th.
Yeah, I am quite liking some of the defensive play in that point, where obviously it's moving off, straying off of the racing line, but just enough to keep people behind from making an overtake. Sorry.
Yeah, it was some good racing. Terrible start for the McLarens. We saw them getting involved in that skirmish going into turn 11. Now sat last and second last. But it is 4 seconds out in front. But Joe is your net race leader with that drive-through penalty. Then we've got Dazen in 3rd, dropping down after starting on the front row. RWB, Geek, BUSR and Jackie all holding positions. And then further back, Assassin and Tom Hug swapping places. Zadie up 3, Aria up 1. And the 2 McLarens, like we said, dropping places. Disastrous start for the Woking outfit, as I think Aria has come together with Cameron Searle, and both of them were briefly stopped on track. Aria in the AlphaTauri still stopped on track, now gets going again. But this has been a terrible start if you're driving an orange car. And if you're driving what colour would you say the AlphaTauri is? A white and a sort of
probably
navy?
A blue, really. I'd say it's the navy is the main colour, and then the white is pasted on top.
Yes, it's an odd livery, isn't it? An odd set
it's
of
a
colour
nice
schemes.
One.
Personally, I'm not a huge fan. I know we've had it for near enough 10 months. But yeah, the red, not a huge fan personally, but looking further forward, Joe trying to shake Dazen out of the DRS range. RWB has actually dropped over a second back and now has Geek in the Red Bull all over the back of him as we go through this twisty 3rd sector and coming up to the corners we spoke about earlier, resembling that famous double left-hander at Turkey, going through 16, 17 and 18, but it is Matty Mumu in control out in front. He may be setting fastest laps, but he's going to have to take a drive-through penalty this lap as Geek goes wide out of the final corner.
I find it still interesting that Matty Mumu hasn't taken his interval yet. Obviously, it's supposed to be taken within the first 3 laps, but
Geek's round.
Would have went straight after.
Geek was round. No. He was off in the grass on the inside of turn 1. You can see there, disastrous start. He didn't have a great qualifying, and now he's down in 10th place after dropping it through turn 1. I don't think it was contact with RWB, because RWB seems fine. The gap to the cars in front staying relatively stable, but that is a sucker punch on lap 3 for one of the potential championship contenders.
Yeah, I mean, we were having a chat about T1 earlier, and with the change in elevation and obviously the compression on the suspension, if it wasn't contact, it must have been something to do with that. It might be that he might be running his suspension a little too harsh, and it just wasn't able to cope, and the tyres just completely gave way.
Yeah, it is a very difficult corner, obviously, because of the incline and the gradient. It's very difficult to spot the apex, as I think he was about to make a move on the Alfa Romeo of Zadie. Yes, he does, so gets one of the places back. The Alfa fighting back on the outside, but has to give in to the much faster Red Bull on the medium tyres compared to the hards, so we'll have the tyre delta as well. But yeah, going back to turn 1, very difficult to spot the apex because of the incline, and then it's very slippery on exit. So
it is a blind hairpin, so
yeah.
You know, I mean, my experience with those is more on the rally stages, but that's still just as blind as if it were covered by trees. But
we've had it confirmed live to us actually that it was a finger slip from Matty Moon, which is not ideal. You said earlier why has he stayed out so long to take his drive-through penalty. He's come out in 8th place, so it's not all doom and gloom, but the reason he stayed out so long would have been that he could get as much of a delta as possible and get out in front of some of the SIR cars. Ironically, he's found that the person behind him is now Geek, who enjoys a battle, let's say.
I mean, obviously staying out would be perhaps the most sensible choice. I was a bit stunned to think that you wouldn't have gone straight in at the second lap. However, obviously with the amount of clean air that you can run and not getting caught up in the pack, I guess that's probably what Matty Mumu has decided to do.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do now, but he has got 3 hard compound runners in front of him, one of which he's going to dispose of very quickly. He hasn't got the overspeed actually, but later on the brakes, down the inside of Tom Hug, easy as you like, and that is 7th place. He's got a lot of work to do now. It's Assassin in front of him in the Aston Martin. Assassin and Tom Hug have been glued together for the majority of this race, but they've now got a Williams, a very fast Williams for that fact. In between them, Assassin goes a little bit wide. Is that going to open the door for Matty Mumu to try and come around the inside and then go around the outside? No, he's going to have to hold position for now, but look at him. All over the back. He's chomping at the bit to get past the Aston Martin. He's going to have to wait probably until the run-up into turn 1. Unless he goes straight into the final corner. No, I was going to say that would have been an audacious move.
Final corner has to be one of the hardest places to overtake within Kota. It's such a funky corner. Obviously with turn 20 you're talking about, and turn 19 as well, those 2 corners are quite odd to try and make an overtake on. It's easier to do on turn 1 where you can just outbrake your nearest penalty.
Some good racing IQ there, but that was like candy from a baby from Matty Mumu with the DRS. Obviously, the overspeed with Assassin not having the rear wing flap open made that very easy, and now can set after BUSR in the Ferrari. He's made a good start up into 5th place, but out in front, the gap is now 1.6 seconds between Joe and Dazen. Dazen on the hard tyres, now 2 seconds. The delta's jumping around a little bit on the hard tyres, so Joe at this stage would have the pace advantage, but that is going to flip-flop as we get through the stint. And then the medium tyres at the end. Dazen's going to be very competitive as we go into the back end of this race. RWB holding on to 3rd and Cherokee in 4th. The gaps are sort of equidistant in the top 5. Now you've got Matty Mumu all over the back of BUSR trying to recover from that first lap calamity.
Unfortunately, it is what it is, and it appears that Matty Mumu is really trying hard to get back up into top 5 probably. Obviously with BUSR using the harder compound tyres, he's going to be running a slightly slower delta compared to if he was on mediums. But again, I think Matty Mumu is going to have to be one to watch this race.
Yeah, we saw it in qualifying, 4/10 ahead of anyone else. He's not that far off professional F1 esports pace. This is going to be another move with the help of DRS, easy as you like into turn 1. Favoured overtaking point on the track, as we said in qualifying, as Joe crucially picks up a penalty. Like he was saying earlier, these are going to be pretty decisive in the race order later on.
Yeah, just the little off track. I believe it's all 4 wheels. It should be on track, or maybe a little bit of run over. But it's that is going to be the killer of this track, and what's going to shake up the order, really. I mean, if Dasan can keep within the 3 seconds, could go pole. You never know.
I'm expecting to see a lot more of those notifications from race control throughout the next 22 laps, because if all of these guys can keep it within track limits for the foreseeable future, I will be absolutely amazed, because this is one of the hardest tracks to try and stay in within track limits. BUSR has kept some DRS from Matty Moon. He's getting a nice toe down the back straight into turn 12. Cameron Searle has just got past the second Alfa Romeo of Zadie up into 10th place, getting into the top 10, or returning to the top 10 after his trials and tribulations in the early opening 6 laps. Gap out in front is 2.6 seconds though between Joe and Dazen, but of course the 3-second penalty will change everything cometh the hour at the end of the race.
I think also we're going on about sort of the next 22 laps, probably within the next, well, bordering on after the next 12 laps. That's where we're going to see people, the laps of judgment. They've been going for a good half hour, 45 minutes, getting towards an hour. Their brains are going to start making little mistakes, falling off a little bit, losing the ball, and you'll see more and more of these 3-second, 1.5 second, maybe 5-second penalties just for going off the track.
Yeah, it's a similar system to what we get in real life, just the penalty slightly shorter. You get you get 2 warnings, and then on the third one, I believe, you get that 3-second penalty, and it just keeps building and building. Eventually, it'll start snowballing, and we'll be seeing people with 6 seconds, 9 seconds, probably 12 seconds for some by the end of the race. We should also be expecting people to start thinking about tyre strategy. We're coming up to getting close to lap 10. I think that'll be the time where people will just start to consider their options on the medium tyres. They should be going until maybe lap 12, I think, will be the recommended pit stop lap. But the hard tyres will now be starting to come into their own a little bit, and you can see that because Matty Mumu, we saw he had a lot of pace early on, but Baz has managed to stick with him pretty well. He's just dropped out of DRS, but he is getting a nice helping hand from the Williams in front. Matty Mumu not making a massive impression on the top 4 at the moment, but there is still a long way to go.
I mean, with how hard he was trying.
Tom Hug's gone.
Oh, that's a shame. It might have been a disconnect. We never know.
He's retired. I wonder if there was some contact with Geek, because Geek has lost a lot of time and places in that altercation. I'm imagining. I don't know quite what happened. It looked like they crashed here on board with the AlphaTauri. I think they must have gone off all the way over to the left-hand side through the triple right-hander, and we do have our first safety car of the season.
Oh, it's not taking too long.
A lot of cars in the pits. In the pits.
Well, would that not be the most optimal time to take a pit stop if there's a safety car and go and get your tyres changed? Because we look at how hard Matty Mumu drove with his medium compound tyres. Obviously, no tyre conservation in that, so they're not going to last as long as other people. No, it looks like he hasn't taken a stop.
Matty Mumu has actually come in. He's gone for another set of mediums, and I thought people would do this. It is a little bit too early still to put the hard tyres and go to the end. So Jarek has gone softs, which is very bold. He is going to be extremely quick on the restart. Geek, RWB, and Dazen are going to be looking in their mirrors quite a bit, and then all the other guys that came in put on their second set of medium tyres and will hopefully they'll probably be looking to go another 10, 12 laps and then maybe go softs at the end, but it depends how many of them saved a set of soft tyres in qualifying. Yeah,
I mean, going for a set of softs in the final ones, final laps can make it a lot more, your chances of pole a lot more interesting. But again, still all to play for. New season, we don't quite know what the balance is just yet.
The safety car does give us a nice moment just to run down the order and take a breath as everyone concertinas up. It is Joe in the lead still, stayed out under the safety car with his 3-second penalty, so that is going to could prove crucial come the end of the race. Dazen on the hard tyres remains in second, RWB in third. Geek, I don't know how he's managed it. He's stayed out. Obviously didn't have any damage from the potential contact with Tom Hug. If we can get that confirmed by someone he's coming in now. It's almost like I've put the commentator's curse on him. He does come into the pits. It'll be interesting to see what tyres he goes onto. It promotes the 2 Alfa Romeos though. Jareki up to 4th on the soft tyres. Going to be looking very good on the restart. Zadie in 5th, stayed out. Matty Mumu pitted for a new set of mediums. It is soft tyres, I believe, there for Geek. Going to be in last, probably, with a lot of work to do, but a much faster tyre for him. He's going to be scything his way through the field, back to the midfield. It's Assassin, BUSR, Cameron Searle, and Ari completing the top 10 Alpha. And then this man, Geek, completes the running order. Tom Hug, the one and only retirement, as he was, either spun or was potentially speared off through the triple right hander. We'll have to wait and see whether that gets confirmed or not.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is what it is, and so these disconnects happen. Well, DNFs, sorry. But again, we've still got 12 drivers on the grid. Oh, yeah. And again, we could see something really interesting happen.
Yeah, the balance of power has shifted slightly because of the safety car. Matty Mumu looks in a pretty good position now. I know he hasn't actually made a net gain of any positions, but he has got past... he hasn't got past anyone, but he is on the brand new medium tyre, so he's going to be quicker than the top three, and Zadie in front. Jareki's the one to watch, though, like we've said. Brand new soft tyres. He's going to be extremely quick.
It's just about keeping the heat in them, I believe. You can see somebody who's, I think that's Zadie, is weaving around like a madman.
Safety car in this lap, though, so we are going to get ready to go racing, and RWB will be the first person that is going to be looking very intently in their mirrors with an Alfa Romeo that is going to be very racy behind. Jareki does like a battle, as do a lot of the guys in the field, but Jareki enjoys a bit of hard racing, has some really good battles in the past. So I look forward to seeing what happens there. Joe backing the pack up, though, making the gap to the safety car so he can launch on the restart and try and build a gap to the Mercedes behind.
Oh, I mean, when we were talking about Williams liveries earlier, what do you think about the Alpha one? Because I'm still a little bit on the fence. I preferred the red and white one from last season.
For me, I prefer the red and black. I think it just looks a lot smoother, and obviously they've done it for weight-saving purposes. Joe waiting until the final corner, but he has gone now, and we are underway again. Hasn't got a brilliant restart. Dazen's right there. Jareki, you can see by the delta all over the back of RWB, and might be thinking about a move into turn one. Here we go. On the left-hand side, committing down the inside. Matty Mumu getting past the second Alfa Romeo as well. But Jareki goes slightly too deep, but he gets the place done. And that is two positions that we thought were going to change pretty quickly, and they have. It's Joe in the lead still from Dazen, Jareki up to third, RWB down to fourth, Matty Mumu up into fifth. Matty Mumu very close to the back of the Aston Martin. RWB might start to fall through the field a little bit here, struggling to those guys on brand new tyres, and I think Dazen is going to succumb to the pressure that Jareki's putting on him. Down the inside into turn 11. Mercedes doesn't. He left quite a bit of space, actually. It looked like they were charted for an instant there. Matty Mumu getting past the Aston Martin as well. Everyone been in a big cluster behind them in the midfield to lower midfield positions. Geek getting off the bottom of the timing sheets into 11th. We've got 3 wide, is it? No, 2 wide between Zadie and BUSR, who's also struggling to hold on to positions. RWB getting back in front of Matty Mumu.
Someone's gone wide as well.
Goes off. Yes, Zadie going off and losing a whole heap of positions as he struggles with those older tyres.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not pitting in, that's going to cost him some time, where some people with their newer tyres are going to have X amount of time above him, especially with the soft compound of Jarek. As we can see right at the top, only 2 seconds off?
0.2 seconds. He's very much in DRS range when that gets enabled, and I wonder if he's going to be going for a move. Well, almost like I predicted it. Through goes Jarek into the lead of the race. Brilliant strategy call from the Alfa Romeo driver. Now takes the lead. That looked like a bit of a corner cut, though, down into turn 1. Matty Mumu making extremely good progress as well, up into third, gets past Dazen. Cameron Searle getting past BUSR further down the order. McLaren's looking to recover after their early antics in the race. But it is still Jareki leading from Joe. 3-second penalty hanging over the Williams head, and I think Matty Mumu is going to be looking to get past his teammate very quickly. We've had it confirmed for us, though, as I'll hold on that thought, because BUSR was having a look up the inside of turn 10 to try, or turn 9, sorry, to try and get past Cameron Searle again. Now has Geek on the soft tyres all over him. This should be like candy from a baby into turn 10 or turn 11, and is Alpha commits down the inside.
Bit of contact.
Yeah, bit of a An audacious move from the McLaren on the Ferrari. Didn't work. BUSR, though, is going to try and slipstream back past. Further forward, the two Williams are side by side. I don't think Joe will fight this one too hard and doesn't. Matimumi, much fresher tyres, much better pace, up into second place. But what I was going to say... Oh, you carry on.
I was going to say about, obviously, carrying on from what I said about Matimumu earlier, obviously the safety car wasn't necessarily predicted. However, as I said, it had the interesting sort of part come along where he's able to get those new tyres on. Safety cars sort of halted people up and has just made up those places. Even with the jump start, again, this is racing, sort to play for.
Aston Martin's going into combat. We can now see RWB falling through the field, gone from third at the restart down into ninth. We definitely know what the best strategy was now, because all these guys that have stayed out, losing whole heaps of time and positions. Assassin getting through, then Cameron Searle, Geek and BUSR, and I think Alpha's going to be the next one to try and get past the struggling Aston Martin. Joe's lost a second and a half to Matimumu, and he's got Dazen and Assassin. Well, this is actually a bit of a Joe train, to be honest, from third down into 10th for Alpha. 2 seconds off the leading duo now. Matimumu has caught the back of Jareki inside DRS range. Those soft tyres will be starting to go off now. They'll be past their best. He used the most of them to get up into the lead, but I think Matimumu is going to take that back very shortly. You can see RWB, is he losing another place? Alpha looking down the inside of turn 11, thinks better of it, and sits behind for now. It's all action stuff. I'm trying to get a point out about Tom, Hug and Geek, but we're going to have to keep waiting because Assassin is under pressure now from Cameron Searle in the McLaren. Dazen gets past Joe up into third place using the DRS. Cameron Searle in the McLaren up the inside of Assassin. Has he done it? Beautifully done round the outside to complete the move. Geek is going to be next in line to get past Assassin. The Aston Martin's going backwards.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how fresh and stuff your tyres are. When it comes to going round, was that turn 13 and turn 14, or was it turn 16? I think it was turn 13.
Yeah, turn 13. Assassin came back at him through 16 and 17, but Cameron Searle able to hold on. Going
around the outside of those corners on an overtake, that is some feat, I have to admit that.
Are we about to see a change for the lead? Matimumu has a little look to the inside, thinks better of it. I think the run from turn 11 down into turn 12 with DRS is going to see him get back past or get into the lead, which he had before his drive-through penalty. Geek going wide into turn 1, battling away with Assassin. The Aston Martins racing everyone, it seems, at the moment. Can't hold on to the places they made up at the start. Geek's up into 6th place. BUSR will be next on Assassin will be next on BUSR's hit list as well. Cameron Searle's on the back of Dazen, who did lose out to Joe again down in the final sector. 3.5 seconds between the two Williams now. This is as we get the third penalty of the race with Alpha.
Up a penalty. Yeah.
You can see this train forming behind the Williams of Joe, who's just trying to get as far as he can to put on those new tyres. It's not working out. The ideal strategy was to pit under the safety car, and Matimumu, who did pit under the safety car, at one point was down in 8th after taking his drive-through penalty. 13 laps back into the lead. Job done. Easy as you like. Cameron Searle's moving forward though. Up the inside of Dazen into turn 12 is close, but the McLaren gets past the Mercedes and up into 4th now. Brilliant comeback. He was 12th, I think, at one point on the opening lap. Now fighting for a podium.
Yeah, it's again all to play for. Different strategies, different things work, and obviously we had the safety car that wasn't planned. So these are the fun parts of racing, I guess.
I'd be amazed if Joe doesn't peel off into the pits at the end of this lap. He's got a massive train behind him. He does carry on. His tyres are absolutely shot. Those mediums done 13 laps now. He'll be thinking about a set of hard tyres very shortly, I'd imagine, unless he's trying to extend them as long as possible to put softs on at the end. That would be an ambitious strategy. He's going to lose another place, though. Into turn 1, Cameron Searle up the inside. A little bit of contact maybe at the apex, but the McLaren is going to get past the Williams. The two Mercedes engine customers swap places, and now it's the Mercedes Works team car of Dazen who's going to try and get past Joe, which it feels like he's been doing for the last 10 laps.
I mean, also just to sort of add on to sort of that, you're looking at the training, you're looking at the gaps and such, only all within half a second of each other. This could make for some very interesting racing, obviously with the drafting, overtaking, braking points and such. This is probably going to be the most exciting part of this race, just this train, just watching everyone going past each other one by one almost.
Another overtake. Geek, who was last at the restart, now up into 5th on those soft tyres. Dazen continuing to fall through the field as well on the old hard tyres that he started the race on. He's going to try and have a look back down the inside. He gets very close on the apex to the Red Bull, but they managed to avoid contact, and Geek holds on to 5th place. Here comes Baz around the outside of Assassin. It's going to keep his nose in there. It's going to be very tight going through this tricky section as Assassin goes a little bit wide to leave the space. They're still side by side up into 16. I think Assassin's going to hold on with the inside line. Is he? Yes, he is, as we cut back to the wide shot, and does hold on to 7th place for now. But BUSR looks like only a matter of time before these guys get through the cars that haven't pitted yet, because Cameron Searles pulled nearly a second and a half to Joe. Meanwhile, in front, though, it's 3 seconds between our race leaders. Here comes BUSR again for round 2 against Assassin, down into turn 1. That was a lot easier, as Geek committing up the inside of Joe, and there's contact.
Oh, no.
That was very late.
Another safety car. And Geek's got a 3-second warning as well. That's not good.
I think he's got that penalty for corner cutting. I think you should remove that and give him one for causing collision, because he wasn't really alongside. He just stuck a nose in there and T-boned into Joe, whose race has been well and truly ruined by that. It was already going backwards. Is now down in 9th place and will continue to fall through. RWB has had the same fate, down in 10th. We're going to continue with this racing in the midfield, though, because Dazen, who started on the hard tyres, still on them, under huge pressure still from BUSR and Assassin. I think they might end up 3 wide by the end of this straight. We're going to have a look, see what happens.
3 wide into turn 12. I would not like to be in that.
BUSR goes to the left. He gets the job done. Assassin holds back and will sit behind the Mercedes for the rest of the lap, but BUSR up into 4th place. I didn't think that the effect of new tyres was going to be this crazy. All of the guys that stayed out under the safety car have just fallen through the field, with the exception of Dazen, who on the hard tyres is struggling to hold on to places. Joe got T-boned by Geek. RWB fell through the field pretty quickly. We definitely know what the right strategy was.
Yeah, definitely. It was go for a change. I mean, Jarek, who's going for the softs, maybe wasn't the best strategy. Obviously, only time will tell, but Matty Mumu's gone from jump starting back to first. That is impressive. That's really impressive.
Here's the definition of a roller coaster. RWB finally pit to get rid of those tyres that he started the race on. Those mediums are going to be not very pretty. He decides to put soft tyres on, which, well, 12 laps on soft tyres. I wish good luck to you, sir. That is going to be very difficult. If we can return to what we tried to talk about 5 laps ago, the contact with Geek and Tom Hug. Tom Hug has had it confirmed to us that Geek spun going around the long right-hander, and then there was no avoiding him. Nobody's fault, but that was race over. An unfortunate way, really unfortunate way for Tom Hug's race to end. But, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes in racing, you're going to get good luck and you're going to get bad luck. It's unfortunate this time that it was the latter. Returning to this battle, though, over 4th, 5th and 6th, BUSR hasn't managed to get rid of Dazen, and the Mercedes has managed to stay within DRS range, and Assassin hasn't managed to get past the Merc. I would have thought there would have been maybe a bit more chopping and changing of positions between these 3, but
I guess when it comes to overtaking, obviously you can try and take one line, and then sometimes if somebody's defending, you have to back off. So it's probably a matter of somebody's gone in to overtake another, and it's not quite planned out, and they've lost a heap of time from it.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant race so far, nonetheless for Matamumu, who, if you ignore, well, you wouldn't even think that he jumped the start, because he's 6 seconds in the lead. Cameron Searle is going up the inside of Jareki into turn 1. Those soft tyres have had enough, and Jareki starting to lose time. It is now Cameron Searle, who was 12th at the end of the first lap, now up in 2nd place as RWB picks up a penalty, down in last place. We'll have to see how strong that undercut is if he can get back towards the top 5, but wasn't looking good as he fell through the field on the old tyres before he made the pit stop. The safety car has absolutely changed the shape of this race, because it's brought Matty Mumu back into it. Cameron Searle, Jareki, they've all moved forward, and the likes of Joe, RWB have fallen through the field. Joe's one was not necessarily his fault, but yeah, he was struggling for pace beforehand, but Joe's a very quick driver, so I'd expect to see him pull some of that time back. I actually don't think he's pitted yet. and those medium tyres are going to be extremely warm. And I don't envy him at all. Geek trying to recover from his second instant of the day, moves up into 7th, gets past Alpha. But we've calmed down a little bit now.
Yeah, it's obviously it's the middle of the races where, again, this is probably where the fatigue starts to set in. Obviously, taking it slow, taking it easy, because you don't want to make any mistakes. Lots of adrenaline, lots of heat in the first sort of half, but this half, I reckon it's going to be a little bit sort of indolent up into the point where it's like the final 5 laps. I reckon that will be when the heat starts to turn back up. Oh, we've got RWB's lost connection, I think. Who's just said.
Yeah, so he left the session. That's interesting. Alpha is into the pits, meanwhile, in the second. McLaren was in, I think he was 8th when he made the stop. He's going to come out in last place, though. Onto a brand new set of soft compound tyres. He is not going to come out in last because Zadie has pitted as well. And is that a drop of rain I see on my screen? Because if it is, Alpha has chosen the worst possible time to come in for a new set of dry tyres.
Yeah, that's always the really unfortunate bit. Again, it's the parts of the racing where we don't know what's going to happen.
It is raining.
Unpredictability, yeah.
As if this race
is going to rain for. Yeah.
I'd expect it to rain for the end of the race. If it rains hard enough for intermediate tyres, and maybe wet tyres, you never know, that could throw a spanner in the works. It would probably be the 4th spanner that's been thrown in the works.
Is Alexa on meteorology again?
After the first 18 laps we've had, Matty Moo is still comfortable out in front. Assassin picks up a penalty. Jareki on those old soft tyres, really starting to struggle. Has been closed in by this group. Look at the traction that Assassin doesn't have going through turns 14 and up into 15 and 16. He's really struggling. I wonder if people are going to come in for intermediates. The race leader decides to stay out as RWB does rejoin. Look at Dazen. He's on really old hard tyres. Was sideways going through 17 there. Car's into the pits. Oh, it's a really late call from BUSR, and we're going to have contact. BUSR's out of the race. Wow. This must be for intermediates. That was borderline crazy from BUSR. As you can see, the spray being kicked up now from the AlphaTauri.
Was that just damage, or was that a sort of a quit as well?
Well, he retired. Well, we've got a safety car. It was correct. I think BUSR realised that the intermediates were the tyre he wanted, realised too late, pulled hard left into the pits where he found Geek's Red Bull. This hasn't really helped Matty Mumu and Cameron Searle, who stayed out. Jareki's, I'm not sure if Jareki came in or not. If we can get that checked at some point, that'd be good. I think Assassin sped into the pit lane. That was a crazy sequence that we saw. The rain started coming down and it caused absolute bedlam on everyone coming into the pits. Crazy stuff. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, again, it's these are the parts of racing that just happen, I guess. I've seen it in other racing games. Obviously, probably one of the first times with F1, but it becomes a mad scramble when there's a panic. And as I was saying earlier, probably going to be for the next few laps, maybe a little bit, just playing it safe, seeing what you can do, what you can get away with, maybe. But you'll see these people that have their laps of judgment because they've been going for X amount of laps, and then suddenly they've got to make a split decision, and bam, that could be race over. Or in Baz's case, it is, unfortunately.
I would describe it as a brain fade, probably.
Yeah.
It looked like a little bit of panic.
Judgment.
Yeah. Realised that if he stayed out on the 6, he was going to get gobbled up by everyone on the Inters. Went for it. Either didn't see or didn't look to see if there was a car on the inside. Dropped it coming into the pits, and then Geek was just an innocent bystander, really, and then Assassin went into the back of Geek.
I was going to say, Jarek's on his intermediates at the moment, and Matty Mumu and Cameron Searle are both in the pit. Do you reckon it'll be a bit close on the exit?
I think it might be close between Searle and Jareki. I think Matty Mumu is going to be long gone out in front, just because
you're not wrong.
These guys are going to have to adhere to the delta because the safety car hasn't picked up our race leader. I think Cameron Searle is going to hold on to second place, though, as he exits the pits now. He's going to be a couple of seconds in front of Jaraki there. But other than the top 3 and Zadie in 11th, everybody has got penalties. So just remember that the running order as everyone crosses the line might not be the final order. Assassin's the only one with 8 seconds, which is not going to help his finishing position.
Probably will put them somewhere within, probably around 8th position, around sort of Aria's position, I reckon.
I'm not 100% sure if the penalty that Assassin got was for going into the back of Geek, in which case I would expect that to get removed post-race, or if it was speeding into the pit. I doubt it was speeding into the pits, just because...
I believe it said 3 seconds added on for Assassin on the overlay for causing an incident with Geek.
Yeah, so I would be fairly sure that's going to get removed, because I don't think there was a lot Assassin could have done there. But yeah, we have got the safety car. Everyone is bunched up nearly, and well, I've just looked at the bottom. It is not an ideal day if you're wearing red, because that is 2 Ferraris out of the race. The only retirees. All I can say is it's the work of Spinala.
The Ferrari stratagem strikes again.
So, I mean, the strategy call for Basil was obviously not ideal, because it looked like he was going to stay out. If that was Ferrari not calling him in at the same time as everyone else, I praise Codemasters and EA for the realism, for Ferrari being the only team that didn't call the drivers in to get the wet tyres on. Yeah, the running order at the moment, though, Matty Mumu, who has had it's been a weird race. It feels like ages ago he got that drive-through penalty for jumping the start, but he leads once again. I wouldn't be surprised if he just drives off into the sunset to take a Max Verstappen-esque victory. Cameron Sell, who was 12th at the end of the first lap, is now second. Jaraki, who's been in and around the top 5 for most of the race, is third. Geek, who has had a lot of adventures, it has to be said, throughout this evening's race, is now 4th. Assassin 5th, Joe 6th, Dazen 7th, Aria 8th, Alpha 9th, and RWB, who started 3rd and was running 3rd for the majority of the first stint, was not one of the beneficiaries of the safety car, stayed out and then tumbled through the field, and now is only 10th place, with Zadie the only car behind the second Alfa Romeo. It's been a very interesting race, though, hasn't it?
Oh, 100%. You know, there's been a little bit, well, obviously there was little bits where perhaps it was quite sort of set in stone what was going to happen. But, yeah, the 2 safety cars, they've definitely caused some life back into this. And especially that train in the mid-pack, that was something that was also, are people going to come around the outside? Are people going to have a sniff into this corner? Again, racing, it's all to play for.
Yeah, it's been quite the event to kick off the new season, and we've still got we're on lap 21, so we've got 7 races to go. We'll have 7 laps left at the end of this one if the safety car does indeed come in at the end of this lap, which I expect it to do so. We've also had it Jason, one of our favourite commentators, I think we can all agree, has said that he believes that it will be removed for Assassin. So we're going to treat that as a 3-second penalty, because I'd be surprised if that doesn't get removed, because he was a bit of an innocent bystander to the kerfuffle that went on in the pit lane entry. But the safety car is going to be coming in as Jaraki nearly goes into the back of Cameron Sell there.
And that would have been would that have been a safety car incident at that point?
It wouldn't have been a safety car, as we've got some overtaking actually. Matamu has backed the pack up so much that, yeah, people are struggling to stay in the correct position. Come on, guys. But, yeah, it wouldn't have been a safety car. I think it would have been... The way the game works is if you make contact under the safety car, you're just lambasted and given a penalty straight away, usually 5 seconds. But Matamu not backing the pack up particularly. The gap to the safety car not actually that big, as now he begins to slow it down into the penultimate corner as we get ready for the second safety car restart of the race. And how close can Cameron Sell and Jaraki get to the driver that has been in a class of his own for most of this race? He has gone before the final corner, and we are underway again. Cameron Searle and Jareki go with him pretty nicely, but I think he's going to be pretty comfortable into turn 1, and is. Geek 4th, Assassin close behind the Red Bull in 5th. Joe and Dazen looking to make up from what's been a difficult race for both of them. Dazen down the inside. Is there going to be contact? It's actually Joe that makes the move on Assassin. Looked like Dazen was going to commit down the inside of both of them, but thought better of it. Joe down the inside up into 5th place. Geek is all over the back of Jareki in the battle for that final podium position. Dazen will be looking to try and get 6th off Assassin pretty sharpishly.
Yeah, in all honesty, I thought there was going to be a slight amount of contact there into the first corner, which usually happens, but fortunately for this race, I think the curse has been lifted.
Yeah, we've seen our fair share of contact into turn 1. Gap out in front is just under 7/10 of a second. Dazen still trying to get past the Aston Martin of Assassin. Joe blocking them a little bit into turn 11 as they all concertinaed up, and now it's going to be a drag race down into turn 12, and the Mercedes has won that fairly comfortably. Assassin gets back into the slipstream. Can he try and make a move up the inside, maybe into 12? No, he doesn't. Alpha behind gets past the Alpha Tauri of Aria to move up into 8th place, but Matti Mumu holding on to the lead, but Cameron Searle's going with him. People wouldn't be used to the wet weather conditions, obviously. They wouldn't have practiced the rain, I doubt, at least, because it doesn't usually rain at this track, and we didn't see rain in qualifying or the start of the race. Matimu has got that gap out to a second if the DRS was activated. That would be important, but it is going to be important for him to try and build a lead. Joe and Dazen are still going at it in the middle, in the final sector. You can see the delta was below 1/10 of a second. I wonder if we're going to see some more battles between those two as they look to get back towards the podium places. Was that the Mercedes of Dazen having a look up the inside of Joe into turn 1? We'll have to wait and see if they swap places. Yes, it was the Mercedes going up the inside, and now they're going to battle down into, through the curve of turn 2 and into the fast 3, 4, 5 and 6. Who's going to back out? It's Joe that backs out and goes off the road, gets a 3-second penalty for it. He's going to try and hold it around the outside as he get that place back. It's been some interesting racing. Joe still battling away to try and hold on to this position. I think he's going to have to concede now, and Dazen, forcefully or not, gets his way up into 5th.
I think it made Assassin have a little move there as well, where Joe sort of laid off. It may just look like that a few frames ago. However, you look at the time differences. RWB looks like they are right up Aria. There we are. Almost a little bit of a contact there, but has made the overtake on Aria. Now, can he keep that distance between himself and the Alpha Tauri there?
Yeah, nicely done. Also nicely done is Geek getting up into the podium places. Has got a penalty though. Jareki will try and stay within 3 seconds of the Red Bull to try and stand on the final step of the podium. Dazen, who has been this all-action stuff watching the Mercedes driver at the moment, is going to try and go round the outside of turn 14 and 15.
And there's a little bit of contact.
Yes, there is contact there. Dazen trying to shove his way through, gets it done, and he is up into 4th now and can chase after the final podium spot. Is it going to be Joe to relegate Jareki down further in this race? No, thinks better of it. Turn 19 is not a traditional overtaking spot and sits behind for now. The Alfa Romeo falling through the pack a little bit as Aria picks up a penalty, and the traditional leading contenders start to make their move towards the podium.
Yeah, I mean, if Dazen can keep Jarek behind, Geek may have this podium, but it does look like Jarek is slowly moving down, and Joe may be able to make that position up.
Yeah, got to stay within 3 seconds critically of both of the cars in front because they've got that penalty and may pick up more as the race goes on in its closing stages. Joe, though, all over the back. He's got 6 seconds worth of penalties, which is going to be music to Jareki's ears, as well as all the drivers around him. He'll be looking to get past the Alfa Romeo, probably down to turn 12. No DRS, of course, because it is wet weather conditions, but they will have the slipstream and the use of their ERS battery if they've been saving it on the restart. And I wonder if Joe, as Jareki starts to fall back from the 2 cars in front, Geek's actually under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, I think Jarek is now just to the outside of the 3 second there.
Through goes Joe.
Yeah, as they've just been overtaken. I reckon Jarek's lost it on this one because it's going to be. It will take. It's going to take a while to keep with a lot to keep behind Geek, then Dazen as well, but then also Joe too, who is probably also not making enough time on them as well. Jarek's lost this one, I think.
Yeah, he's all over the place, going through 14 and into 15 as well. So looks like that podium is going to be gone for Jarek. The battle in front, though, is heating up because Dazen under half a second behind Geek in that battle for the final podium spot. Joe, it's unlikely he can get it with that 6 seconds worth of penalties, but he can get in there, cause a little bit of carnage, maybe throw an extra spanner in the works to try and pull off the guys around. 2 seconds the gap in front as we start lap 25 between Matimumu and Cameron Sell, and then a second and a half back to Geek. With this battle, Dazen having a look down the inside. We've already seen Geek getting to trouble through turn 1. I don't think there was contact. Looked like Dazen just sort of slid into the corner and has to think better of it for now. Sits right under the rear wing of the Red Bull, going up towards 3, 4 and 5. I think he's going to wait until we get to the back straight, which is where we've seen a lot of overtaking so far, to try and get that final spot on the podium.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to be the part where they're going to keep battling on for the next 3 laps. But I reckon it'll be the last one where something interesting happens and somebody clinches it. Oh, Geek's picked up a 3-second penalty.
Crucial. Podium dreams shattered. Alpha, meanwhile, in the McLaren has spun. Geek goes off the track again, goes wide through turn 11, and this is going to be easy pickings, you would imagine, for Dazen down the back straight. RWB looking to capitalise.
I was going to say, unless Dazen makes mistakes themselves and then picks up their own extra 3-second penalty. But also, Jarek, I was saying about perhaps they've lost it. You look at the time difference, they're still within 3 seconds. If Dazen picks up another set of 3-second penalties, they're back in it, really. Yeah,
and Joe sees a potential P4 as well, because Geek's really struggling at the moment to keep up with at least the top 2. Dazen all over the back of him. Doesn't have to get this move done, because he'll get it courtesy of the penalty, unless, rightly said by you, he picks up another 3-second penalty for corner cutting, as Joe goes a little bit wide through turn 18. He's all over the back of them as well. It's a really good 3-car scrap to end the race. You can see from the graphic at the bottom, Joe has got 56% of his ERS charge left. I think he'll be looking to deploy that to try and get at least one of these 2 cars out of the final corner. Dazen gets a much better run than Geek, but he doesn't have the overspeed. He must be running higher wings than Geek. Tries to commit down into turn 1. Geek with the wider line. Are they going to meet in the middle and make contact? No, they aren't, as Geek hangs on once again. This is really good defensive driving from the Red Bull. It's respectful racing as well, which is always good to see.
Yeah, we don't really want people being pinged off and spun out into crowds. That's not something we really want. But, to go around keep and hold on around the outside, again, that has to be correct. Dazen's picked up a 3-second penalty. It really is all to play for now. Jarek's even able to get a sniff in too. This is going to be a tight one.
Jarek now looks favourite for that 3rd place. It's all coming back to him now. He's only, I'd say he's about 2.5, 3 seconds behind Geek at the moment. And now these 3 in front, they're all battling. They're going to hold each other up by battling as well. Jarek has just got to push right until the flag is now all to play for, like you said, between Geek, Dazen and Joe. Looks like Joe's going to have a look around the outside of Dazen into turn 12. Attack goes to defence for the Mercedes. Joe's way too late on the brakes.
Yeah, that was
way
almost
too
contact
late
to Geek there. That's how bad that was. Again, it going into, is it turn 19 if I remember correctly? No, turn 12, my bad. Again, that's going to be something that not a lot of people really want to go 3-4 wide into. It's ballsy, especially in the rain as well. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, the irony of it as well. Geek was the one that T-boned Joe earlier in the race. Joe almost returning the favour by outbraking himself into turn 12, trying to get 4th place. They're still all fighting for this podium, but Jarek is favourite at the moment. Assassin and RWB 7th and 8th, Alpha 9th and Aria 10th as we start the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. The season, the curtain raiser, if you like. It is Matimumu leading at the moment. Cameron Sell looks pretty comfortable in 2nd, especially with those 3 6-second penalties behind. And it is a 3-way scrap on track, plus Jareki, who might be promoted to 3rd by the time the race is done.
Yeah, again, all to play for. We've got to just sit and watch, really. I think also it must be something that
4 seconds.
When it comes to sort of the new people that may be watching that may not have started within a BUSR season before, give it a go. You might not be the best, but just give it a try, because it's a lot of fun trying these things, I have to admit.
Absolutely. It's a very nice community And these are some very enjoyable races to get involved in. As you can see from the last 27 laps of this Grand Prix, Geek went very deep into turn 11, but Dazen was almost caught out by it, had to check up a little bit on the exit and found himself losing time. Zadie picks up a penalty. We've now only got 3 drivers that haven't got time penalties. Dazen again later on the brakes than Geek. This is a really good defensive effort from him. They're not making enough progress over Jaraki though to hold on to third. The gap is about 4.5 seconds. They need to find another second and a half. Dazen all over the back of Geek as we come up towards turns 16, 17 and 18. Here is the race leader as he begins to start the final lap, getting a little bit out of shape there through turn 19. It is treacherous conditions in the intermediates on the intermediate tyres, but he is 4.6 seconds ahead of Cameron Searle. Then it's 2 seconds back to this scrap, which has been going on for the last 5 or 6 laps. Dazen just cannot get past Geek. This is going to be his last opportunity on the final lap. Jaraki is struggling at the moment to keep up. The gap's still around 4.5 to 5 seconds.
Could clinch this. He might be able to just clinch this third place.
Yeah, Jaraki's got to keep the pace up. Dazen's got to do everything possible to try and get past him. It's going to be very tight come the end of this lap, but it is Matti Mumu who is very comfortable out in front, as he's been for the majority of the race. Joe has dropped back a little bit, so I think he is done in this battle at the moment. Jaraki's made a mistake in the first sector, though, and I think he's barely inside 6 seconds now, and the podium fight is still on. Yeah, you can see Jaraki sliding all over the place, the Alfa Romeo. I think that's going to be chances gone. You can see 4.6 seconds to Joe, and then another 1.4 seconds between Joe and Geek. Joe's made a mistake now going through turn 11. They're all over the place in these conditions. It might be time for full wets. I don't think Dazen's going to be close enough to pass Geek, and it looks like Geek is going to end up on the podium here.
Yeah, I mean, credit to both Matamumu and Geek. Like, they've both gone from very low down on the grid or making early mistakes, and the drives of both of them, as well as the strategies that go towards it as well.
Dazen's off.
Oh, that's such a shame. Again, that's I was mentioning earlier about fatigue. Right at the end of the race, there's going to be these little bits where there's a lapse of judgment, and they're going to come a cropper, really. But credit to Geek and Matty Mumu here. There's some cracking drives.
28 laps of craziness, I think I'm right in saying.
28 lap bonanza.
Yes. Over the line though, Matti Mumu, after his blunder at the start. Oh,
Jarek's moved up to 4th.
Look how close it was in the end. Matti Mumu takes it by 5.8 seconds. Geek sneaks onto the podium. Is Aria
going to beat Zadie though? That's the question.
It is. I think the gap is 7 seconds between them. I think the AlphaTauri is fairly comfortable at the moment. We wait for Zadie to be the last over the line to complete an action-packed United States Grand Prix to kick the season off. It is Matti Mumu who, despite his early blunder, was absolutely dominant. Cameron Searle picks up driver of the day. I would say that's probably justified. Came through from the back of the field. Didn't have a great qualifying, but comes home with a podium. What are your thoughts on that?
Again, as I said, sort of, I've personally found sort of the ones that have made the mistakes early on, like Geek and like Matti Mumu. Those were some very impressive drives from them. But fair play to Cameron, coming from the back, all fair and square. Maybe not doing, not quite getting that first place, but still, that's a really good drive as well, and not driving cleanly as well. That's really impressive.
Very fun race to watch, as we usually get at Austin, Texas. The rain adding a little bit of spice late on as well, which threw the cat amongst the pigeons very much. But it was Matti Mumu who kicks off his title defence with an almost perfect performance. Further down, Geek was in the wars a little bit, it must be said, but came back through to get that podium. Jaraki will be disappointed to miss out by just over a third of a second. Dazen and Joe with strong drives, although were limited by getting involved in some action lower down the order. Good racing, though. I think that's the main thing we can take away from that. Really good racing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's first of the season. It's always going to be a little bit interesting. And I think the top three was similar to the ones that we had last year, if I remember correctly.
I would have to check that. Matty Mumu, I do believe, won the race. I think Joe was on the podium, if I can remember correctly. But yeah, we'll be waiting for the interviews, though, to get us underway. Top three is the tradition. Any questions you'd like to pose to our interviewees?
I mean, we could always ask the YouTube chat as well, if there's any questions they'd like from them.
Very good point. Get some audience interaction.
Community, yeah.
Yes. As we'll look to bring the top three in shortly enough. We'll also get the final race results to you shortly as well, so we can have a quick rundown of the total time, positions gained, penalties, fastest laps, because there was a little reward for getting fastest lap, and the points scored as well. As we have
I look so rude. I'm trying to look at my other monitor as to what's going on. I'm sorry, chat. I'm not completely palming you off. But yeah, I mean, Kota is the first one. That's it's always going to be an interesting one. Show results, yeah. To
confirm then, what we already knew, Matty Mumu was pretty dominant in the end after his trials and tribulations on the opening lap. Didn't get fastest lap though, so it wasn't quite the clean sweep. He wins by 5.8 seconds. Cameron Searle, really good drive. Started 10th, was down in 12th at the end of the first lap. Got caught up in a bit of an incident. Comes back to get a podium. Great way to kick off the season. And Geek, who was in the wars as well, coming through to finish third. Jareki in fourth picks up the fastest lap and does actually claim a little prize for that, for getting the fastest lap. So we'll try and talk to him as well. Dazen and Joe slipping 3 places. They got the strategy wrong, staying out under the safety car, and they end up 5th and 6th. The 2 Aston Martins, Assassin was seemingly battling with everyone at certain points during the race. He comes home in 7th. RWB slipping through the field as well. The strategy was very crucial, as it turned out. He comes home in 8th after... Well, he only had a 3-lap stint on the soft tyres as well before the rain came. Alpha in the second McLaren in 9th, and Aria rounding out the top 10 in 10th. Edie there in 11th, the last of the finishers. And then the 2 Ferraris. Disaster at Maranello. Tom Hug and BUSR both retiring with separate incidents. One was Tom Hug getting caught up in Geek's spin, and then a lapse of judgment, let's say, from BUSR with that pit lane collision, which was spectacular, I think.
Unfortunately, it's a Ferrari disaster class. It is. But, let's see what happens to them in the next set of races. Something could happen to some of the other competitors. These guys could keep going on, pushing towards pole. Pushing towards podium finishes. We don't know.
Absolutely. And we're going to get ready for interview. So we're going to talk to the top 2, and we're actually going to talk to Jareki as well. And we will explain why when we bring him in. Jareki did have a very exciting race, though. So be very interesting to talk to. Missing out on a podium by 0.3 of a second with those 6-second penalties that everyone picked up in the final few laps, as we get ready to bring Jareki in any moment now. Here is Jareki. We'll start off with the race itself before we talk a little bit about the fastest lap that you picked up. But how was it? It seemed action-packed. You were usually towards the front in the top 5, and then just missing out on a podium by 0.3 of a second in the end with the 6-second penalties picked up by the 3 guys in front. How was it for you?
I think it was pretty solid. I kind of when I got towards the end of the stints on the softs and the inters, my pace just kind of fell off. So I didn't really deserve a podium, to be honest. But yeah, it was a pretty solid race. Managed to get the fastest lap, which is always a positive. I purposely chose the 4 softs in the softer setup, so I got 4 softs, so I had a fresh one for the race as well. So yeah, it was decent. Enjoyed it.
Strategizing, yes. Yeah, There were some good battles in there, especially when the rain came out. You were having to hold on to that third place. You got shuffled down a little bit by the 3 drivers around you. What was it like racing in those conditions? Because I would imagine you didn't do a lot of practice for wet weather driving in Texas.
No, I can't even remember the last time I drove an Inters on this game. It must have been like months. Well, at least a month or two. And then I didn't have a wet SERP, so it was a bit difficult. And then when Geek passed me, he just deployed his whole battery. And by the time I was halfway down the straight, I just thought there's no point because we're just going to go if I start deploying, we're just going to go into the corner side by side and we'll just slow each other down. And then my pace just kind of fell off. So I don't really like Inter conditions. So I think to still manage to stay up the field it was okay.
Anything from you, Alex?
No, I can't really think of anything really.
We will move on to the fastest lap that you picked up, though, which has an extra special meaning, though, because I believe you've won a little competition for picking up the fastest lap of the race.
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe it's the Draytech speed test line. Oh, part of the Draytech speed test lineup. It's set up for referrals, courtesy of them.
Yes, that is very good. Thank you, Draytech.
So you may not have got on the podium, but you've got yourself a nice little care package to take into the rest of the season for you. So congratulations on that one.
Thank you very much.
Nice little memento.
Yep. Thank you.
So thank you for talking to us, Cherokee. That was a very exciting race to watch and
eventful.
Yes, and we wish you best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too, mate.
Cherokee there, picking up a lovely little care package after his fastest lap of the race. Well deserved for him. We're now going to bring in our runner-up, which will be Cameron Searle, who had a very good drive, actually. Like we said earlier, started a long way down the field. Started down in 10th. Didn't have a great first lap, but Cameron Searle, you are on the podium. Well done.
Thank you. Good recovery drive. Safety cars definitely helped here. Can't lie on that one.
Well, you say the safety car helped, but once you got up into the top 5 and got past the drivers in front of you, the pace was pretty strong. You weren't that much slower than Matamumu, and you definitely had the legs to keep some traditionally very fast drivers behind you.
Yeah, it's reminded me of the last time I was here. I think the issue wasn't the pace, it was just in the first stint I got tagged. And then I was so far off, it would have just been a recovery drive, maybe up to the midpoints. And then the safety cars just gave me a chance then to actually get through the pack into a decent result.
So the pace was good. What was it like driving? I asked Cherokee this and he said he wasn't prepared for it. I don't imagine a lot of drivers would have been racing in the rain at Texas. How was that for you?
Racing in the rain on the Inters, not too bad. I think my tyre wear was a little higher than most. Racing trying to do that lap on the dries when it's raining, horrible.
It was very tricky, and I don't know if you saw it going on. We did have a shunt in the pit lane as people panicked to get the intermediate tyres on, which was a good little laugh for us. Alex, anything you want to say to Cameron?
Actually, yeah, I did want to ask, when it came to, obviously we were highlighting the point where you were on, I believe it was mediums, whilst it was slowly becoming quite a greasy sort of wet circuit. How did you manage with the track limits?
Not too bad. I think the issue was just more keeping it facing forwards and worrying about the track limits. At that point, you're driving so slowly. Even if you do go off, by the time you get back on, you've lost so much time that the game just sort of forgives you, as it were.
Well, you're only one of 3 drivers in the end that didn't pick up a penalty for exceeding track limits, so you did very well on that front.
Yeah, I know Matty was the other one. Who was the third?
It was Cherokee. Cherokee in the fourth, yeah. Obviously, I can't remember if the 2 Ferraris got penalties. I think BUSR did, but obviously only completed half the race. So
yeah,
I think we'd rather be in your position.
I'd rather be in my position, yeah.
Final thing from me, obviously, very good start to the season. What would you say your ambitions are for the coming 7 races?
not mess up like I did in quali today.
Always good.
For me, it's just have a clean season. Because obviously, I think even though there's the one race forgiveness, mess ups like my quali today will cost it in the long run.
Well, it was a very good recovery, especially after getting tagged on the opening lap, gaining 10 places throughout the course of the race. So very well done. Very good start to the season. We wish you all the best for the coming races.
Thank you very much.
We've spoken to Jericho, we've spoken to Cameron. We are now going to look to bring in our race winner, who I think will have quite a lot to say about his race. And I can't wait to ask him what happened at the start. Matty, a dominant performance in qualifying. On paper, it was dominant in the race, but you had a bit of a blunder at the start.
I think a blunder might be a bit of an understatement. It's not the first time this has happened in a BUSR race, but yeah, I mean, all I was thinking before I pressed ready up was don't jump the start. So what do? Jump the start. But as it turns out, that was the superior strategy, because it meant that I pulled a 4-second lead on Joe. They couldn't pit when the safety car was called, and I could. So, big brain.
It does sound like quite the 200 IQ strategy when you put it like that. Did you think, obviously the pace was very strong. I mean, you weren't that far off F1 esports pace in qualifying, which is fairly impressive, I must say. Were you confident of getting back through towards the front?
To be honest, yes. Well, like, I just knew that I had to pit on lap 3 to serve the drive-through, as it would mean that I get as much free air as possible. And then when I saw I came out, I think about 8th or something, I was definitely confident of getting top 3. I think that was my aim. Thinking that Joe and Desan were a bit too out of reach, but as it turns out, yeah, good things happened.
Jumping the start puts you on the optimal strategy. Who would have thunk it? Alex, what do you think of our race winner's performance?
Yeah, as I said, it was a very, very good, like very impressive drive. I mean, like, you know, the strategy. I think you've covered all of the questions that I could ask, really. Again, I mean, the only thing that I can think of is probably, you know, how did you find managing, you know, dry tires in the wet?
Dry tires were okay for me, definitely better than some people had to experience, but it was also another stroke of very fortunate luck, because the VSC was called right as I've driven past the pit lane, and then it turned into a safety car. So I think even though I had about a 7-second advantage to Cameron, that would have been wiped out, because the lap from the lap where everyone else pitted on inters was awful. But thankfully we had to stick to a delta, so that once again saved me. So I'm here feeling like I didn't deserve it, even though the pace was there. But yeah, lucky wins. They happen.
They say cats have 9 lives, and you've probably used up 2 of them in that race. So you've got 7 for the final 7 races. It was interesting though. Did you think it was gone? Because without that kerfuffle in the pits, is what I'll call it. Yeah, I think you were going to lose quite a lot of time.
Yes, I think the only point. Well, I could tell the rain was getting heavier, but I just still didn't think it was quite into weather. And then right as I turned the last corner, Jeff comes on the radio saying, "Oh yeah, it's into weather now, by the way." But at that point, I was quite scared. but then safety cars and fun things happened in the pit lane behind me. So again, just fun, lucky luck.
Well, you
Little bit of divine
you need the rub of the
intervention.
green. Yeah, need the rub of the green sometimes, but as much as it may not have been the complete performance, it is the full points to kick off the season. And I figure that will go a long way for you getting that championship, which I imagine is what your main aim will be.
Still slightly hurt at not getting summer, so winter is now the main objective. But obviously we have new fast people, so it'll be interesting to see how the season plays out from here.
Well, we wish you all the best, and we hope it goes well for you, and maybe you can right the wrongs of the summer and get the championship success that you've had in the past.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Well, that was quite a way to start the season. I think you'll agree.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's exciting. Rarely a lap where there wasn't something really going on. I think maybe it was like one or two. That was it. So, what a way to kick off the start of the season.
Excellent way to get us underway. And next week, obviously, we are back, and we are at Mexico. We are mirroring real life. I believe we're mirroring real life. I'm going to have to fact check that now because I don't want to sound. I don't want to.
Yeah, Mexico is next.
Mexico is the next track. So we are mirroring this North American leg from real life. What are you expecting there? It's a very different track.
Yeah, I find Mexico is quite an interesting one. I remember trying that with, I believe it was F1 20. Well, the previous game, F1 22. Not a track that I've raced often. I think that might have been my first or second. But actually, it was quite an interesting one. I remember when it first was reintroduced, and all of the stuff that they've gone through for it. It's quite. Do excuse me, I'm about to sneeze.
Excuse you that.
Yeah, I was about to. But no, it's. I mean, with my driving characteristics, I'm a bit more sideways than going in straight lines. But like some of the missions and stuff with that, it's a good track, I'd say.
Yeah, it's one of those really low grip circuits. I think we could see a few whoopsies as the qualifying sessions go on. We do have a sprint race as well, so that will be coming to you next week, and we are very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
And to get your fix of BUSR action before we get to that, we obviously have the other series. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Yep, we've got ACC on Mondays. You'll have to check the calendar on what's going on with that one, and then we've got iRacing as well on Thursdays. That's I mean, with both of them, it's alumni and students, but I believe also on Thursdays it's one that's sponsored by a close sort of partner of ours, which is RevSport, which. I believe I've been in some of their VCs, and they're saying that they've got an interesting prize to come along with the student winner of the iRacing series. We'll just double check what's going on with both of those. What's on the calendar for both of those?
Hopefully, some more good circuits like we've seen. Looking forward to the action that we get during the week. Of course.
I mean, all of the races will be on our socials, so that's always something to go and give it a go and have a look at. Oh, yeah, we've also got the dirt season, comes along, starts on a Tuesday and lasts for a week. Always a fun one to try. I know Doom's just said that probably because he's going to try and be at the top of the table as per usual. However, I believe it is the last dirt season for this coming season, as EA WRC comes out within the next couple of weeks, which I'm sure a lot of us are very excited to get our hands on.
Very much so. Very much so. ACC wise, I've just seen, I believe, if the calendar I've got here is correct, we will be going to Valencia.
Oh,
round
yeah,
two.
that's one of the most recent tracks. It's a very tricky one to pick up. I know it'll probably be Angus will probably be manning the alumni class as per usual if Joe doesn't come back up, but it'll be all to play for with the students. I cannot remember who is on top at that, so it'd be one to really watch and have a go at that one too.
Absolutely. Just to finish us off, though, iRacing looking at Phoenix Legacy for the second round there. And then rally-wise, round one. Currently ongoing is the USA in the United States of, like we have been for the F1.
That's always a fun one to give a go. I know a couple of times I've crashed off at that one, I'll be honest, but Witchcraft Rallies hasn't everyone. But that one's always a fun one. We'll have to have a check of what is... I'll quickly see if I can check what's the next round.
Germany in Rally GTs from the 24th.
Oh, wait, which one's for this week? Sorry, for Rally?
R4s.
R4s, yep. And then Rally GTs next week, so that'll be rear-wheel drive, fast as anything. Stuff like GT3s, so you got your 911s, V8 Vantage, and there's also an M2 Competizione. Yeah, GT4s. So, yeah, it'll be a very interesting week. So keep posted.
Lots to look forward to. But for this evening's action, I've been Tom.
No, I've been Alex.
It's been a pleasure commentating for you guys today, and we will see you next time.
Mm-hmm. Enjoy your evening, guys.